what are certain rituals or like prayers that you guys do?
Well, the most basic of Buddhist prayers is the refuge prayer, in which Buddhists will declare they're taking refuge, meaning seeking shelter in something, relying on something, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the Buddha being the sort of founder of this religion, he is referred to as the person who reached enlightenment, who is awake. Buddha means awakened one. The Dharma being what he taught, and then the Sangha meaning the community of practitioners. So we rely on these three things in order to advance on our spiritual path. So put another way, it's often said that the Buddha is like the supreme physician, the Dharma is like the supreme medicine, and then the Sangha is like the community of healing practitioners, like nurses in a hospital. So when one is inflicted with suffering, when one has suffering in one's life, so this is sort of the basis of Buddhism, the recognition of suffering and then the liberation from that. One seeks out the Buddha as a guide to liberate oneself from that. Just as if one were to get sick physically, you would go then to a hospital and seek medicine, and then you would seek the assistance of the practitioners, the nurses in the hospital.
Very cool. And to go on, what are some like offensive things that like shouldn't be done in like maybe the temple or like I don't know, like in everyday life?
Well, I don't know. Certainly there are some protocols that people, expect to be observed. Meaning you should, when you go to a temple, you shouldn't go walk up to the altar and start touching the statuary. But you would observe that even if you were walking into some church, you wouldn't go up to the altar and start, messing around with it. Yeah. Usually chatting loudly is sort of frowned upon, especially in temples where meditation is one of their main practices. Mm-hmm. You disturb the meditators if you chat loudly. In dress, just dress a little bit more conservatively, like you would if you were going to attend a church. But otherwise, outside of just blatantly disrespecting something, in the ways that you would expect, even in this culture, it's really hard to sort of offend someone in the Buddhist temple.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's good to know. And what about, are there any certain like weekly rituals that take place?
Yeah, after coming to the West, Buddhism has largely assimilated the sort of the Christian model of having Sunday services. So a lot of temples do have Sunday services, but that's usually in addition to daily services. So if a temple is of the traditional strain, meaning it has ordained monks and nuns, then usually those monks and nuns live within those temples and they conduct their private services. That meaning like they will do their morning chanting, their evening chanting, and the various meditations in between. And usually, I call them private, but if you walk in on them, they usually allow outside individuals to come and participate. It's just that usually people don't participate during those times. Okay. Yeah. So I guess it would be similar to, Catholic Mass, which is held every day in the Catholic Church. Sunday is the biggest Mass, but that doesn't mean all the other Masses that are held throughout the week aren't welcoming the congregation. They can still come, but usually people don't come.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. And the communication style between one another, how would you say that is?
Between who and which?
Like just certain people, like in the temple during like meditation, or is it, or like the proxemics of your communication style, like?
What's a proxemics?
Like spatial wise, like do you guys prefer like to be like away, close, when you communicate with one another?
It really depends on what temple you go to, and what tradition that temple follows. As Buddhism moved across the globe, it assimilated the cultural elements that it encountered. A lot of as long as it wasn't directly in contradiction to the Buddhist teachings, things were taken sort of fluidly. Meaning, robe colors differ from country to country, styles of teaching sort of differ from country to country.
Is the color changed based on
Well, the Buddhist teaching on the robe color was that ordained disciples should always wear robes that are dyed with the cheapest dye and of the cheapest material. It's a symbol of humility and renouncing sort of material desires in order to pursue higher spiritual aims. And so as Buddhism spread across the world, different countries had different cheap dyes. In one country it was like yellow, this bright yellow that was the cheapest dye, and in another country, say in Korea, the cheapest dye was like a brown, or like a gray, and so the gray came about as a result of unrefined cotton, so like cloth that was made from cotton but not dyed, and so it was a gray color. Yeah.
Do you know if Irvine has a large Buddhist population?
I know it has a large Republican so maybe not. But
okay.
I know it has a very large Buddhist monastery just down the street. Yeah. It has various pockets of Buddhist practitioners, but I wouldn't say that Irvine has specifically a large Buddhist community, because I don't know. Well, large pockets, areas where you have a lot of Buddhists together tend to be more ethnic areas. Mm-hmm. Say a large population of Thai people, a large population of Chinese people or Taiwanese people. Then you get like these huge numbers of Buddhists. But if you get into areas that are a lot more diverse, or if they're a lot more sort of homogenized, then you get less Buddhists. Or you get people who are Buddhist practitioners but won't overtly identify as Buddhists. Because they weren't raised in that culture, they weren't raised to be Buddhist, and so they will just say, well, I am Christian with Buddhists mixed in. I am Buddhist-Christian, something like that, even though doctrinally it doesn't work out very cleanly.